I'm going to begin by introducing myself, and then I am going to speak a bit about what mental health is. And then after that, I'm going to speak a bit about what mental health is. I'm going to define it, causes of it, and then I'm going to go into the 7 ways that it can be managed. I think it might be useful to grab a pen and a paper if you think that some of the content I'm going to share can apply to your life or to someone else that you know. All right then. Okay, so let me get straight into it. So my name is Roberta Chisuri. I am a global shaper. Just to tell you a bit about the Global Shapers. The Global Shapers are an initiative of the World Economic Forum, and we are a global youth movement dedicated to improving the state of the world. Why am I speaking to you about mental health today? Well, first, I did my bachelor's degree in development. So I have always had a keen interest in access and affordability to social services like mental health. And in addition to that, I have also dealt with poor mental health, and I have been exposed to how expensive dealing with it can be, especially in a Ugandan health system. And I know lots of other people in different countries face a similar problem as well. And I am currently working towards an MSc, a Masters of Science in Health and International Development. And yes, I think my long-term career goal is centered on multi-sectoral policy and program work centered on increasing accessibility and affordable healthcare to everyone. So that's a bit about me. Going straight into defining what mental health is. So I hope you can all still hear me. And please, if I'm speaking too quickly, please let me know and I will slow down. I do have a tendency to talk quite quickly. So obviously, I'm sure a lot of you have been seeing on your social media that May is Mental Health Month. Mental Health Month is actually an American concept. But mental health is also internationally recognized by the United Nations, and Mental Health Day, the UN Mental Health Day, is 10th of October. So I think the fact that mental health is recognized by the UN and by countries like the United States really shows us that it's a very important thing that we need to talk about, because it does affect livelihoods and it does affect economies and it does affect how productive people can be in society. So I'm going to define mental health now. So the World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and contribute to society. So the World Health Organization definition of mental health clearly highlights that it is imperative that each and every single person in a country has good mental health and has access to mental health services in order to be able to add economic and social value to their country. So in the same way that people need to be physically well, people need to be able to get malaria treatment in order to be well enough to serve society. People need to be able to access mental health services in order to be able to benefit their society. Just a few key stats. Mental health affects 1 in 4 people globally. That's about 450 million people. And 800,000 people per year die from suicide. And of that 800,000, 79% of that number is in low-income countries. And obviously, Uganda is a low-income country, so again, it is super important that we have this conversation. Furthermore, of the 800,000 people that die, the bulk of them are teenagers between the ages of 15 to 19 years of age, again, which shows that it is so important that we add mental health education to the curriculum to make sure that the future leaders of society are well equipped to deal with a lot of the developmental challenges that our continent faces. Okay, just a couple of examples of mental health disorders. Obviously, this list is not exhaustive. You get anxiety, you get depression, you get borderline personality disorder, and you get obsessive compulsive disorder as well. And I think it's super important to remember that anyone can suffer from these things on a spectrum. So I know for a lot of us, when we think about a mentally ill person, we usually think about the person eating out of the dustbin, but that's a person who is on the higher end of the spectrum. But any of us can be dealing with a mental health disorder, like the ones I've listed, but are on the lower end of the spectrum. So, going into the causes of mental health illnesses. So there's quite a number of causes. Obviously, the list I'm going to read now is not exhaustive. So you get grief, you get uncertainty. Obviously, because of COVID, there has been a massive issue with mental health globally, and because of the loss it's brought as well. So you get uncertainty, you get loss, you get grief, stress, illness, and a number of other things. So, for example, for me, I remember when I was working in a very highly stressful environment a couple of years ago. For about 3 weeks, I had ridiculous heart palpitations, and I was still getting up, I was still going to work, but my heart just kept racing until one day I went to the hospital when it was just too much. And I told the doctor, I was like, yo, my heart literally will not stop racing. And for me, I was just like, I think it's because, I've been stress eating, I've been eating lots of junk food, so I think I've clogged my arteries. And the doctor actually just laughed at me. I'm sure people who are used to self-diagnosis can relate to going on to WebMD and diagnosing themselves. But anyway, so the doctor gave me some medicine to help me manage it. But again, this also goes to show that if you are feeling a certain type of way, you shouldn't ignore it. You should not ignore your body when it is. You shouldn't ignore your body if it's giving you signs that are showing that you are not doing okay. So that's just an example. And it's also important to note that whereas I was anxious, with my heart rate just racing all the time and I was able to go to work, some people deal with anxiety and they literally just shut down, which again goes back to talking about the spectrum of mental health and how it affects all of us differently. And then also, mental health issues can also just come out essentially from nowhere. In the same way that you can wake up one day and you have a cold, or you have a disease and you're 100% physically fine yesterday. So in the same way, you can wake up and you are depressed. So for example, I remember in my 4th year at uni, I woke up one day and my heart was racing and I was convinced that something bad was going to happen. There was no reason for me to think like that. Like, I was doing fine in class, like all my friends were fine, family was fine. But again, sometimes it just comes out of nowhere. But again, it is imperative that you do not ignore it, because chances are it can stem up again in the future. And if you don't deal with it, it can only get worse. It might only end up getting worse, okay? So just to quickly summarize that section, the point I've tried to make is that we all have a mental health, and it is super important that it is managed so we can be the best that we can be. In the same way that you go to your doctor for your annual checkup to make sure everything is fine, it is important. I cannot stress it. It is so important that you are in tune with how your mind is doing, how you're feeling, how your body is feeling, how you react to certain things, in order to make sure that you're mentally well, so that you can obviously be the best that you can be and add value to your life and to the lives of people around you. Okay? Now I am going to go into the 7 affordable ways to manage mental health. Just before I begin, I will say, for starters, this list is not exhaustive. And if there are other ways that you guys have managed, please share them in the comments so other people can benefit as well. And I will also say that I recognize that a big question is always affordable for who. Because some of the things I'm talking about might not be available for people in low income communities. So that's also a conversation we need to have. and it's sort of where I see my career going. But anyway, I digress. So now going into the 7 affordable things that we can do to manage our mental health. And please, if you have a pen and a paper, please grab that. So number 1, there are a couple of free therapy services available. The first one, the first one I'm going to tell you about is Dr. Caroline Leaf. She is a South African psychologist, and she has an incredible podcast called Cleaning Up the Mental Mess that provides short audios, 5 to 10 minutes, on dealing with different types of mental health disorders, anxiety, depression, among others. So please check out her podcast. And she has Instagram as well, Dr. Caroline Leaf, as in the leaf of a tree. And she's on, I've listened to a couple of her podcasts, and they've been extremely beneficial to me. So please check those out. Option number 2 is Rachel Lubunga. She is a psychologist, and she has been offering free mental health support during the COVID pandemic on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. All you need to do is either call her or send her a message. Oh, sorry, guys, I think the connection went funny for a bit. Okay. Let me know if you want me to repeat anything, just in case I lost you for a second. Rachel Lubunga is a therapist, and she's been offering free mental health services Tuesdays and Thursdays during the COVID pandemic. Her telephone number is 0705 754 002. I'm going to repeat that. 0705 754 002. Please send her a message. Please call her, or share her contact with someone who you think might benefit, because she's a great resource to use. Okay, next, the third free therapy option that I've used as well is Mentally Aware Nigeria. That's Mentally Aware Nigeria, and it is an online therapy platform that was set up by a Nigerian doctor called Dr. Victor Ugo, who was also dealing with depression, and he felt like he didn't have access to services he felt that he could afford. So please check out Mentally Aware Nigeria on Instagram and on Facebook. And how it works is, and their website as well, and how it works is you send them a message, you send them a message requesting for a therapist, and they will link you with someone who will contact you via the phone, and you can speak to them about your problem. I remember earlier this year, I lost both my grandmothers, and it was quite tough, and so I contacted Mentally Aware Nigeria, and they actually gave me a grief counselor who's been absolutely incredible, and we just speak on WhatsApp or over voice note. It's up to you and what you prefer. You could do a phone call as well. So that's been extremely instrumental for me. Thrive Uganda is an Instagram page run by a couple of Ugandan psychologists, and it offers it's just an incredible platform to get mental health support and advice, and just a reminder that you are not alone in the struggle. And actually, one of the psychologists from Thrive Uganda is called Patricia Caballo, and she's also doing a talk on mental health on Thursday with Pearls for Her. So please check that out, because she has a host of knowledge to share. She's incredible. And then also Malketha Maternal Services is doing work centered on increasing awareness about maternal mental health. So if that's an area that you are interested in, please do check them out. You'll definitely learn a lot from them. Okay, going on to number 2 on my list of affordable ways to manage your mental health I think we need to all build resilience and be aware of our triggers. So triggers can include people who hurt you, people who you live with every day and do things knowingly or unknowingly to hurt you. Or triggers could even be, you could even be your own trigger for like holding on to like past mistakes and things that you've done or things that you regret. And I think it's super important that we build resilience against these triggers just so we can be better and we can overcome, and just so we can overcome the paralysis that comes from sort of being held back by our mistakes and the people that hurt us. So 6 incredible platforms that have really helped me with that. And please make a note of these. I can see I am destined for greatness is making a note of some of the key things that I am saying. Thank you very much for that. So in terms of building resilience, please check out the following people on YouTube and wherever you find your podcasts. So if you do believe in God, Heather Lindsay and Joyce Meyer are incredible because not only are their messages faith-based, but they've dealt with like horrible depression and anxiety and they've overcome it, and it's been super helpful for me. So I would highly encourage that. Also, there is a British YouTuber, an English YouTuber called Breenie Lee, who also provides fantastic advice about being your best self, getting over childhood traumas, overcoming failed relationships, things like that. And she's in her mid-20s, so I know she's definitely provided me with a lot of guidance and support as I sort of, navigate my adult life. So please check her out as well. Dr. Caroline Leaf, again, her podcast, Cleaning Up the Mental Mess. I know I've spoken about her twice, but the thing I love the most about what she does is that her information is very concise. It's very concise, and it's based on evidence-based research. So it's very practical to apply, and you can sort of listen to it 10 minutes in the morning before you start your day. So please check her out. And then Jay Shetty as well. I don't know if I'd said that. He is a British personal development guru. So he offers quite a lot of great insight as well. So be sure to check him out. And then the third, number 3 on my list of affordable ways to manage your mental health is exercising and eating well. And again, I know I keep making the link between physical and mental health, but I think it's very important that we do so that we understand that, if you don't take care of your mental, you're not going to be okay. You won't be okay. You won't be the best that you can be. So do make the effort to exercise and to eat well. Sugar can affect so eating a diet that's high in sugar and saturated fat can sort of, cause a bit of a hormonal imbalance, which has been linked to symptoms of anxiety and depression. I will also say, though, that if you are dealing with mental health issues, and yes, exercising is great, but if, say, your mental health issue stems from the fact that you have a body image issue, which is what I dealt with, please be very careful about how you approach exercise, and please exercise moderately. I mean, I remember when I was dealing with body dysmorphia, I literally just used to run 7 kilometers 6 times a week, and I was barely eating any food. And I was like, yeah, I'm being healthy and I'm dealing with my body image issues, which was not really the case. And as a result, I ended up with quite a couple of bad shoulder and knee injuries that I'm still recovering from. So if you are dealing with poor mental health stemming from body image issues, I think it's important that you first address that using some of the resources I've dealt with before. But if you feel like exercise might help you, there are a couple of things you can try out. Once upon a time, I lived in the gym lifting weights. I absolutely can't stand that anymore. And now I do boxing. So also try and find what works for you. Don't feel the need to do something just because everyone is doing it. Okay. And then now moving on to number 4. on my list, we're almost there, is managing our relationship with drugs and alcohol. Now, I don't know if, for the people watching from Uganda, I don't know if any of you have seen Hair by Ziwa's video about his issues with dealing with alcoholism and the link that it has to mental health. And I'm really happy he shared that story because, first, he reminded us that, drugs and alcohol are depressants. We need to be very honest with ourselves about it. And so, and also, if you are having a problem with drugs and alcohol, it is important that you seek help because you can't drink. I know it's cliche, but you essentially can't drink your problems away. So, yeah, if you are struggling with drugs and alcohol, then please seek help. Personally, I quit drinking 2 years ago because it was making me depressed, it was making me anxious, and it was affecting quite a couple of areas in my life. And so I made the tough decision to stop. And I know obviously in Uganda drinking is related to being social and that kind of thing, but you can still have a social life beyond sort of drinking alcohol and going out. Like it is very possible. And just to touch on something else, I know marijuana is a drug that's also used for recreational purposes in Uganda as well. And I think pop culture has painted marijuana as sort of a better alternative to alcohol, and that okay, alcohol messes you up, you get into car crashes, but smoke weed, it will alleviate your mind and make you feel great. And okay, I'm not saying that it doesn't work like that for some people. For some people maybe it does, maybe it helps them think better. But if you smoke weed and it slows you down and you can't think and you get depressed and you get sad, then I think you need to reflect and be super, super honest with yourself and think about what you want to do to get over that hurdle, okay? So that's it on the drugs and the alcohol. And then my fifth affordable mental health tip is confide. By all means, if you are struggling with something, please talk to someone. Again, I will emphasize that you should be a bit careful about who you choose to speak to, simply because some people will not think that whatever you're dealing with is a big deal, or you might speak to someone and they might talk you down, or they might sort of come with, but other people have it worse, which is fair. But it's like, if I have a headache and someone has malaria, am I not going to take a painkiller just because someone is on a drip in hospital with malaria? Do you see what I mean? So if you are feeling upset, please try and avoid the mentality of other people have it worse, because all that does is add guilt on top of the negative feelings that you're already dealing with. And so as a result, you have the problem that you had in the first place, and then you have guilt on top of it, which has done what to solve the problem? Nothing. So please confide in someone who will actually be able to give you constructive advice or provide you with a judgment-free listening ear. And then also tap into, if you do believe in God, tap into faith-based community sessions, churches. I know there has been a lot of controversy around the church and mental health, in people saying, oh, if you believe in God, why do you need a therapist? And personally for me, I believe in God, and I honestly believe that God gave us medical doctors, like surgeons and GPs, general practitioners, to help us. So to help us deal with our physical ailments. So in the same way, God has also given us psychiatrists and therapists and counselors to help us identify the problems in our lives where we might be struggling mentally. So God, yes, but God has also given us these incredible resources, these incredible medics, psychiatrists, therapists, who can help us deal with some of the problems that we are struggling with. And then moving on to my affordable tip, number 6, So there are a couple of support groups available. I do have a friend who runs a support group in Muyenga. So if you would be interested in joining that, please send me a direct message on my personal Instagram. My Instagram is Roberta Chisubi, like one word, no spaces, and I will send you her contact, and you can get in touch with her about that. And then number 7, it's about dealing with loved ones who are dealing with mental illnesses. I think it's super important that we are patient with them, because I think, first of all, consider how hard it is to change things about yourself. So you shouldn't be too hard on other people when they're dealing with their own challenges, because it is extremely hard to sort of come out of a mental illness or a mental funk. So the best that you can do is shower them with love, and let them know that you're there for them. Let them know about the available therapy services. Let them know about some of the content they can listen to help them deal with what they're going through and the likes. And yeah, and just be patient with them and just do your best, okay? Just do your best. You can't force them to get better. You can't force them into being 100% better as quickly as you'd like, but you can provide them with resources to help them be better. So that's the best that you can do. And just to conclude, I will say again, just because other people have it worse, it doesn't mean that what you are dealing with is not valid. Because trying to drown or sort of, minimize your problems using guilt is just going to literally make them pop up in other ways that could essentially harm you and other people around you. And also, again, there is clear evidence to show that if you do not look after your mental health, then it might increase the risk of you dealing with mental illness, in the same way that if you do not look after your physical health, you will possibly end up with a physical illness. So it's important that you take the correct measures to deal with your mental health. And sometimes we might not realize that there's a problem. So I think it's super important that you are aware of what triggers you, what upsets you, what makes you feel a certain way, and then taking the 7 measures that I've shared, among other things, to deal with the problem. And of course, I think the most complex thing about mental health is that obviously there is no magical solution. It is sort of an ongoing thing. You can't sort of like pop a Panadol and make it go away, but there are steps to manage it. And I mean, that's what I do, because if I don't use some of the steps I've shared here, like I deal with terrible anxiety. I end up suffering from terrible anxiety, and I'm not as productive as I can be. So you just have to manage it, and then you will slowly be able to you'll slowly be able to be better and to help others and to sort of get to where you want to be in life. And yeah, I think that's just that's it from me. So once again, the 7 things, there's the free therapy resources. I'm going to upload this video onto IGTV, just so you can catch anything I might have missed. So I've spoken about free therapy resources available, and I've listed those, and you can play back this video and you'll see them. Number 2 is building resilience against triggers through listening to YouTube and podcast content. I have shared some of the YouTube and podcast content that I think that has worked for me and I believe would be super beneficial. Number 3 is obviously exercising and eating well in moderation, of course. And if you do have a mental illness stemming from body image, then tackling that first so you don't end up starving yourself and dealing with a body image issue. Number 4 is managing your relationship with drugs and alcohol. I've been 2 years sober, so yes, it's like 100% possible. Number 5 is confiding in people in your community, making sure that you don't confide in people who might end up judging you. Number 6, support groups. And number 7, being patient with loved ones. And yeah, and finally, just knowing that, don't minimize how you're feeling, and it can be managed. And in the same way that you look after your physical health, you have to look after your mental health in order to minimize the risk of mental illness. Okay, that's all from me, guys. Thank you for all your comments, and I hope what I've shared helps you during the COVID pandemic and the extra couple of weeks of lockdown we're dealing with for those in Uganda. And I hope that it can help you beyond, and that you can use this information to help someone else. Thanks, guys. Let me just check and see if there's any questions. Thank you for all your comments. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for joining in. And yes, let's keep spreading the word about managing mental health and making it affordable, so fewer people can fall through the cracks because of mental illness. Yeah, I don't think there are any questions, just comments. So yeah, I'm just going to end the video now, and thank you again, guys, for joining in. And yeah, take care, stay safe, and cheers to managing our mental health. Bye.